Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 News. F1's launch event for the new season is due to begin in just a couple of days' time, but Max Verstappen, the reigning world champion, continues to make it clear he does not intend to attend. Back in November, he said he hopes he was sick this week, and it turns out that as of stream last night, he was coughing on stream and maybe trying to make the case to Red Bull that he doesn't have to go. More than likely, though, he will be forced to attend, and also some other drama elsewhere today with the new Haas car being leaked to the public, it seems, potentially with their new livery as well. Very much into your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. The reason why I'm showing this image is because we are 1 month away from the official start of the season in some respects. We are 2 days away from the first Formula 1 thing that's happening of the year. Then we're only a few days after that away from Bahrain testing. 16th of March, that is the Australian Grand Prix. The first race of the season, of course, let's not forget this year, because Bahrain and Jeddah are being pushed back somewhat this year compared to where they have been over the last few Grand Prix seasons, obviously. Now, let's talk about some driver outfits. Not really outfits, this is race suits. Here are the Ferrari boys. But speaking of Ferrari power, today was a big day for Haas. So Haas revealed everything today. Here we go. Esteban Ocon on the left, Ollie Behrman on the right. The new race suits, obviously they're doing all the stuff that they usually do. Looks kind of nice, the red, the black, the white. I mean, the colours are great for Haas. I think it goes so well with Toyota, right? Toyota Gazoo Racing that are sponsoring them. There's been a general feeling, and I wouldn't be surprised if this comes true over the next few years, that Toyota take a steeper involvement in Haas. There's even been suggestions they might take over Haas entirely and become a Toyota Works F1 team. That maybe is a bit ambitious. We'll see what happens in due course. But the Haas car looked pretty good last year. These are the race seats for the new season. Hoping they can be relatively competitive, as we said over the last couple of days. I'm optimistic that Williams could put together a decent car this year. Aston Martin will really have their focus on 26. Obviously Alpine as well, or Alpine at the end of the day, and their engine isn't very strong as we know. So Haas, Williams, they could maybe get in the fight for being upper end of the midfield this year. I don't think it's impossible, especially if the Ferrari continues to take a step. Obviously, Haas can use that in their car design. But the notable drama of today with Haas really is that today they decided, as other teams did, to do a private test, a shakedown of the car at Silverstone. Now, we saw this, of course, from Williams, and we saw it from McLaren over the last couple of days. Williams especially did like a proper filming day around it, loads of footage, loads of images, proper launch type thing, and I think Williams played it quite well because the teams are not allowed to reveal their livery until 2 days from now on the Tuesday. That's when the launch event happens. But of course, they can reveal the car with a different livery. That's what Williams did, that's what McLaren did. But Williams did a proper launch, as we have typically seen, but just without the proper livery, which is possibly the way that other teams will approach this in coming seasons, assuming this F-125 unveiling continues to be a thing for future years. But Haas decided, all right, we're not going to make it super public. We're just going to do a private test. And that meant a couple of things. Firstly, you would imagine they don't have to do their own livery, especially for the tests, because they're not publicly revealing anything. It's just someone happened to take a picture of the car, as of course they did. So these images may remind you of when the Red Bull, certainly the RB20, started to get leaked last year. It was doing a shakedown at Silverstone. And here we are with the new Haas. Now, we have some really nice images here, actually. This is not really one of them. It's okay, but it's not as good as some of the ones that we're about to see. This is another, again, not the most pixels on the screen, but this does appear to be the new F1, well, was it VF-25 or whatever they're technically calling it. Here's another angle of it as well. But the best image we have is pretty much this one, I think. So yeah, here we go. This is the new Haas. Don't know, shout out Hardy, I guess, for taking the image or something. But yeah, so keep in mind, this is not Haas's official launch. They've just said, here are our race suits, and we're going to do a private test today. Not public or anything. That leads me to believe this is likely to be their actual livery, because first of all, they've got all the sponsors on it. You know, the sponsors are plastered all over the livery, on the side, on the back, everywhere. There's lots of carbon, which we'd expect to see, to be honest, from the liveries nowadays. And it's not been officially revealed by Haas. They've not said anything about it on their social media, what their livery is. Because if they were doing a special one-off livery just for the test, they'd probably tell us about it, because all the other teams have done. So my guess is this is the Haas livery for the new year, and also some proper wet tyre running, which is kind of nice to see as well. The blue accents, kind of like it, but obviously we don't see the wet tyres in proper running because they're useless in Grand Prix conditions. What do you guys think about this? I really like it. It looks nice. I mean, okay, it's a Haas, it's white, it's black, it's red, but I like what they've done with it. The side pods look pretty aggressive, I will say. I mean, you can see, well, it's difficult to tell actually, whether there's clearly a bit of an overbite on the side pods. It doesn't seem like they go down in the way that the new McLaren does, and in the way that the Mercedes did from last year as well. Although, as I say, there aren't an infinite number of pixels here to really analyse that in great detail. But just a bit of a comparison between the 2024 Haas up top and the 2025 Haas. There's no doubt in my mind that the bottom car looks better, in my opinion. And maybe it's going to be faster as well. Last year's Haas was pretty good. Ocon is a capable driver. Behrman's an exciting prospect, absolutely. And I definitely think that Ferrari will be looking at Behrman as, you know, let's say in 3-4 years' time, and when Hamilton's time is up at Ferrari, maybe he's an option to step into the Ferrari team as and when the time comes. Of course, the first driver in a very long time to make his debut with Ferrari, because of course at Jeddah he had to sub in for Carlos Sainz last year when the appendicitis thing was happening. But these are the Haas cars, well, one of the Haas cars for the new season. There is discussion that the car is not going to be massively similar to the Ferrari, right? It's because teams like Williams have dealt with this as well. They can use the new parts from the new cars, but if they do that, they obviously have to design around them, and they don't have as long to do so. So I think it was Haas who actually said, we're going to stick with the old Ferrari suspension design from the we're not going to change to the pull rod front suspension. Haas are going to stick with the old push rod front suspension for this season. So the point that De Kester is making is that yes, the Haas looks quite different. They've made some adjustments to it. Like, it's difficult from these images and the quality to go into great detail on exactly what they have changed, but I'm sure we'll see some analysis in due course, and we'll actually see some here in about 20 seconds time. But basically what he says is, just because the Haas has done this doesn't mean that the Ferrari is also, you know, not going to change much. He says, like, the concept of the Ferrari is very different to what the Haas have done, and very different to even what they did last year. Now, Vanja pointed this out. I thought, you know, just a couple of interesting pieces. On the overbite thing that we had, the very aggressive flap tip at the back of the car, these, you know, bulky side pods as we see. You know, they do steep undercuts, but maybe bulkier than we have seen on some other designs. So it's difficult to really read too much into it. But this is another comparison shot, VF-24 at the top, VF-25 at the bottom. And, I mean, you can look at this for some time, and, I mean, okay, the side pods look a bit different. There's probably a couple of elements maybe on the floor that look a little different. Again, it's kind of tough to say, but it's not radically different, is it? Like, this seems very much like an evolution to me rather than some sort of revolution, but we'll see. I mean, this is the new car. It's not like they've just done the old car in a new livery, because why would they do that? Like, they were doing a private test of the new car today, and it is substantially different. You guys can see the rear wing is different in various ways as well. So yeah, intrigued to your perspective on that in the comments section below. Just one other thing to look at, because while it doesn't seem like Haas have done much, you know, they're still using last year's Ferrari suspension, I believe, certainly at the front of the car, so even that's going to be the same. This is just a cross-section of the new McLaren. On the left, you guys can just about see it, is the old McLaren, and on the right is the new McLaren. So, you know, you can see the changes in the air inlet at the back of the car, the changes in the side pod design, but especially really in this kind of anti-dive on the suspension. So, you know, quite radically different here what McLaren are going for this season. Is it going to work? That is a question. Speaking of McLaren, did just want to share this clip real quick. I thought it was kind of cool actually from Oscar Piastri. I like how in this clip he makes sure he clarifies absolutely, to make sure that nobody misquotes him, that he was asked the question, you know, who would you like to win the championship if it wasn't going to be yourself? And you might expect him to say, Lando, you know, he's my boy, he drives my team, whatever. But no, he said, be pretty cool to see Lewis win the championship in the Ferrari, would be iconic. But then he clarifies to say, look, I'm trying to win this title, it's going to be me, but if it wasn't, then it would be nice to be Lewis.
If I wasn't racing in F1, seeing Lewis Hamilton win a world championship with Ferrari would be pretty cool.
Quite iconic.
Would be, if I wasn't racing
And I
against
think he
him.
was
So lots of questions really on Oscar this year, how he's going to fare with Lando. I think even Lando Norris made a statement today that any potential battle with Oscar for the championship is not going to be stress-free. He says, I don't think there's ever been a situation where two teammates are fighting and it's stress-free, so that is inevitable. We'll see how it fares, right? Because I know that many people, I wouldn't say there's that many people backing Oscar to beat Lando, but I think there's many people that expect it to be close, competitive, closer than last year. But I think obviously last year in terms of qualifying results, it was emphatic in Lando's favour, and that gave him an edge in critical moments. But in the same way that Lando is trying to learn how to get his elbows out and how to fight Max Verstappen, Oscar's learning how to be a more consistent and effective racing driver year after year. And in terms of utmost pure ceiling and potential, I think Lando's right up there. Whether Oscar is up there, I don't know quite yet. But he's certainly got the killer instincts that Lando doesn't seem to have. So I think it's a fascinating rivalry, of course, back to 0 points again, especially if, because McLaren said this, they hope their car this year is so good that they make the championship boring. I doubt that's going to happen, really. I expect other teams to be able to do something interesting. And even if their car is the best, do we trust Lando to execute on that as Max did last year at the early part of the season and Lando didn't when he had the strongest car? Maybe Oscar could, but does he have the outright pace? These are big questions going into the new season. And at the end of the day, the discussion from elsewhere, and even Martin Brundle said the same thing. It was like, Lando got to learn how to have, razor blades on his elbows or whatever to make sure he's fighting Max hard and inspiring some confidence in himself that he can actually challenge Max and showing Max that he's not going to be pushed around. Equally, people are still expecting Max to be the man to beat. It does feel like at the moment, if you want to win a championship, you've got to beat Max. Now, of course, it depends on the car. Like, if Max spawns into the new season in the Racing Bull, not the Red Bull, then he ain't winning the championship. So, there's always that. But still, Max is to be the man to beat, effectively. I think Lando will feel that way. I think everyone will feel that way. Whether Red Bull deliver a car that's in the right point is a question mark, right? Because even last year's car, Adrian Newey wasn't very happy about the way that the team had decided to develop it. It seemed like that was one of the reasons why he left, was that he didn't feel like his input on the problems that were emerging in that car's concept were being taken seriously enough. So Newey got out of there for various reasons, and now the team is leading a charge on a new car that hasn't really had any Newey influence at all. It has had some from, the days when Newey was still in the team and they were working towards the new season and the next car, but it's, are we going to consider the RB21 a Newey car? No, right? Not really. So that's one of the first ever for Max, I guess, driving that's not really considered to be a Newey design. So there's that discussion, and it's going to be revealed in just a couple of days. Well, knowing Red Bull, they're not actually going to reveal it. They're simply going to show last year's car with the new livery, which will be the same as the old livery, and they'll talk about it. And we know how the fans feel about these events. We know how Max Verstappen tends to feel about these events. This is the type of thing that he's down for, right? Get in the car, do some preparation, seat fittings, look at the team, look at the analysis, look at some of the data, get in the simulator and do some work. That's the stuff that Max lives for. He's a racing driver. What he doesn't really live for is turning up to these events and, showing his face for the cameras, basically. That's not what Max is all about. Now, he was on stream over the last couple of days. Things got rather entertaining. He was actually talking to Giampiero Lambiase, his race engineer, and it turns out the GP got a dog and he called it Max, which I thought was pretty funny. I told him, at least you got one Max that listens to you. So, nice to see that relationship. And Max is always kind of entertaining on stream. But he did say a few interesting words yesterday, especially with relevance to what we saw back in November. So back in November, you guys may remember, it was first confirmed what was happening F1-75, this launch event at the O2. They said, the tickets are going to be on sale. And then realistically, the tickets were not available for anyone because all the seats are going to corporate sponsors, is my understanding. Even the media coverage of it and the amount of media that were allowed to go is pretty limited to my understanding. So anyway, the F1-75 event is happening, and Max didn't know what it was when it was first being talked about, and he made the statement at the end of this clip. I'll share it for you guys in a second. This is the old clip, and of course the new clip we'll see in a second, but he says, hope I'm sick that week.
No, what is F1-75? What are you talking about?
I don't know either.
They've exploded. My
It's a
God.
livery reveal for the next year.
I don't watch any F1. No,
No, I'm dating myself.
Got one?
Oh,
That's had a great
my
day.
God.
You got blown up again.
Yes.
People
Oh,
say
the
car
car.
launch, but it's just a livery reveal. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On me, Chris. On me.
Especially for Red Bull.
On me.
I hope
on me.
I'm sick that week. Jesus.
So Max, of course, at the time was quizzed on this and said, oh, you can't be serious, Max. Like, surely you are going to attend the event as Red Bull. You'd be really, enlivened or, like, I don't know, inspired to come along and talk about the new car that isn't really the new car in front of all those corporate sponsors and the fans when you'd, rather be just sim racing on your own for the evening. But, at the end of the day, he's getting paid tens of millions of dollars a year. He can go to London and do this event. That's the way that Red Bull will think about it. And Max, after getting quizzed on this at the time, said, oh no, it was definitely just joking. I definitely didn't mean it. People take it too serious. I was just joking around, guys. And then fast forward to last night when, it was pretty funny. Max was coughing, right? So he seemed like he was a little bit unwell, a little bit of a chesty cough maybe. So, that's what people have been talking about in the last 24 hours or so, is that Max was talking about getting ill. He was saying on stream last night, oh, I might be getting a little bit under the weather. I'm coughing a little bit. Maybe he's going to try and find a way out of the launch event, right? People are saying he's practicing for the launch event, so he doesn't have to be there. We'll see. As I said at the start of the video, the likelihood is he will be there, Red Bull will be there, and even Jos Verstappen was discussing how his involvement, Jos's, in Max's decisions is less than it used to be. Now Max effectively makes the calls. But it's going to be good to see what happens at this event in the near future, right? How the different teams handle the approach, how Max Verstappen is enjoying his time up there on the stage, showing the new car, and they will be towards the end of the evening. I believe it's going to be celebrity appearances, it's going to be musical acts and entertainment, it's all the classics. And so I'm excited to see how it goes. I don't think it's going to be massively entertaining for someone like me, but whatever. I feel like Max probably feels the same way. Just before we close out the video, this is Max's new private jet. Now, obviously, people talk about private jets. It's always kind of controversial, right? Because people say, oh, F1, sustainability, net zero and all this, and the drivers are flying around in jets. And yeah, sure, I mean, everyone knows the sustainability thing is just a corporate buzzword, really. Like, do they really care? Well, I don't know. That's my opinion. Maybe I'm just super cynical, about the real intentions here. But, I like things that go fast, and this is a jet. Now, the jet at the bottom, I think, was relatively affordable for a jet. I think you might have bought it off Richard Branson. And you guys can tell how big the new jet is, because the same livery that he's got on the old jet, where the tick of the logo comes up to the, fourth last window. On the new one, the same tick, there's another, 7 windows. So it's a substantially longer and larger airplane. I mean, the range is substantially more. You might not think for, 5 times the price, it's worth it. And, that would be a fair assessment, maybe. But equally, the range being 12,000 kilometers means that there are very few Grand Prix that Max won't be able to reach in a single flight, and that could be a pretty big deal. We did talk about it the other day, and I don't really have much of an opinion on it. I just think old jet, new jet, pretty cool. Max has his own private jet. Other drivers tend to share one to get between Grand Prix, and then they can really live on their own terms. They don't have to go through airports and stuff like this. It makes a lot of sense, but obviously there's always a little bit of let's say juxtaposition there between what F1 say that they're really all about and what a lot of the drivers are doing a lot of the time. Not like it's the driver's responsibility, but you know what I'm saying. Interested your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.